I'm a 28-year-old male, and I come from a family with a convoluted and long history of favoritism. My younger sister, Amy, 25, has always been the favorite, especially for my dad. Since our childhood, this partiality only grew worse with time. Amy was the golden child. From my earliest memories, I recall our parents throwing her elaborate birthday parties, with professional face painters, a bouncy castle, and even a petting zoo, when she was only 2 years old. That same year, I turned 5 and got a store-bought cake and a quiet family supper. It set the tone for everything that followed. As we grew up, the favoritism only intensified. Amy always got the latest toys, the best clothes, and most of the attention. I remember saving for months to buy a bike when I was 10. When Amy saw it, she threw a tantrum. And instead of teaching her patience, my parents went out and bought her an even better bike. Another area where the bias was obvious was school. My parents attended every one of Amy's school functions, while often skipping mine. In 4th grade, I landed the lead role in the school play. I practiced for weeks, but on the big night, my parents showed up an hour late, missing my performance, because Amy had a stomach ache. She was fine later, of course, but they had lost track of time playing with her. No matter what I achieved, it never felt enough. I joined the math club, got straight A's in middle school, and even won 1st place at a regional science fair. Yet my parents hardly reacted. Meanwhile, when Amy got a B+ in her weakest subject, they threw her a dinner celebration and bought her a new phone as encouragement. High school was even harder. Desperate for their approval, I kept a 4.0 GPA, became editor of the school newspaper, and captained the debate team. Amy, on the other hand, barely maintained a C average and mostly hung out with friends. When I got selected for a prestigious summer program at Harvard during my junior year, I was ecstatic. I shared the news at dinner, and my dad just grunted and switched the topic to Amy's upcoming dance performance. My mom simply said, "That's nice," and moved on. They couldn't even drop me off at the airport for the program. It conflicted with Amy's concert. I had to ask a friend's parents to drive me. The college application process was another nightmare. I spent months refining essays, taking SAT prep, and participating in extracurriculars. I got into several elite schools, even landed a sizable scholarship to my dream college. When I told them, my dad said, "That's good, but don't let it run to your head. College isn't everything." My mom added, "Just remember us when you're off becoming a big shot." But when Amy barely scraped through high school and decided not to attend college, they praised her for knowing herself and defying expectations. They even bought her a car as a graduation gift. All this favoritism took a toll. Through my teens and early 20s, I struggled with anxiety and depression. I finally began therapy in college and came to realize their behavior was never my fault. It took years of work to build self-worth and stop craving their approval. Despite it all, I still managed to carve a good life. I graduated with honors, landed a decent job in finance, and bought my own house by the time I was 27. My parents weren't proud, but I was. And that's when the drama began. On my dad's side, my grandfather passed away recently. He was a self-made man and had built a sizable estate. In his will, he divided his possessions equally among his grandchildren. That included me, Amy, and our cousins, as well as his own children, including my dad. My share of the inheritance was significant, roughly $500,000. It was life-changing. I could finally pay off my student loans, invest in my future, maybe even start a company one day. I was deeply grateful for the opportunity, and touched that my grandfather had included me so generously. But when the will was read, my parents looked tense. Later, they pulled me aside and said they thought it was unfair that I received an equal share. Amy, they argued, needed the money more because she was struggling. She still lived in their basement and worked part-time at a coffee shop. I was shocked, but calm. I reminded them that it was Grandpa's decision, and his will was clear. They had no say in how he chose to divide his estate. That's when they turned on me. They said I should do the right thing and give my entire share to Amy. When I refused, they accused me of being selfish and ungrateful. My dad started listing every time they had helped me, buying me braces, getting me school supplies, letting me live at home during college. Never mind that I worked part-time to help with bills. Never mind that they bought Amy a car, took her shopping regularly, and still financially supported her well into adulthood. Then things got worse. As executor of the will, my dad decided to reinterpret Grandpa's intentions. He announced that he would give Amy my entire inheritance, claiming it's what Grandpa would have wanted if he had known the situation. I was devastated. Not only was this blatantly illegal, it was a brutal reminder of just how little my parents valued me. I tried to reason with them, reminding them that Grandpa had always treated all of us equally and was well aware of our circumstances. But my mother accused me of insulting Grandpa by suggesting he would have done anything different than what my dad now claimed. I recalled how Grandpa had always encouraged me, cheered on my academic and career milestones, but they brushed that aside. They insisted that he had been worried about Amy's future and had privately expressed those concerns. So I asked the obvious question, then why didn't he write the will that way? No answer. Amy, for her part, was awkward about the whole thing. She shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best." When I tried to speak to her privately, she didn't want to get involved. Feeling betrayed and isolated, I reached out to Grandpa's widow, my grandmother. When I told her what was happening, she was furious. She made it clear my parents had no authority to alter the will. In fact, she revealed something shocking. Years ago, my parents had tried to convince Grandpa to leave everything to Amy. But Grandpa had refused. He believed all of his grandchildren should be treated equally. He had even added a clause in his will. Anyone who challenged the equal distribution would forfeit their share. Armed with this information, I confronted my parents. They were stunned. Grandmother wasn't finished. She contacted the other executor and the family lawyer. She also rallied Grandpa's other children, my dad's siblings, all of whom were equally appalled at what he had tried to do. Together, they stopped his plan. Despite their anger toward me, my parents were forced to back off. The will was enforced exactly as written. I got my rightful share. But the emotional fallout was heavy. My parents were furious. They accused me of betraying the family and turning everyone against them. My mother cried, saying I had split the family and deceived them. My father threatened to cut me out of their will entirely. He even said I wouldn't be welcome in their home if I accepted the inheritance. In one particularly cruel moment, my mom told me that accepting the money proved I never loved them, that I was just waiting to profit from their deaths. The situation tore through the extended family. Some of my cousins supported me, knowing the long-standing favoritism and how I'd always been the scapegoat. Others said I should have just kept the peace and let Amy have it, because family comes before money. Even my dad's siblings, while clearly on my side, began to experience tension with my parents. Amy was caught in the middle. In private, she admitted she felt bad and never asked for this. But she also wasn't willing to confront our parents. She told me she's been conditioned her whole life to depend on them, to seek their approval. So, while I didn't blame her completely, part of me wished she would stand up, just once. This whole ordeal reopened a lot of old wounds. I began to recall all the times I was overlooked, the birthdays without parties, the school events they skipped, the achievements they ignored. It was like this one battle brought to the surface a lifetime of unfairness. Even though I stood my ground and kept my inheritance, it came at a cost. My parents barely speak to me now. Family gatherings have become painfully awkward. For the first time ever, I skipped our monthly family dinner. I couldn't take the cold stares and silent treatment. And yet, deep down, a small part of me feels empowered. For the first time in my life, I confronted their favoritism. I stood up for myself. I declared that I mattered, that I deserved to be treated with dignity. It's been both terrifying and freeing. But the emotional toll is real. I've started having anxiety attacks again, something I hadn't experienced since college. I'm seriously considering going back to therapy just to cope with the stress of it all. Sometimes I wonder, was I wrong? Should I have just given Amy the money to keep the peace? Should I have continued playing the role of the quiet, responsible child and let them give it all away? But I'm tired of being the scapegoat, and I'm terrified of losing my family completely. Any advice or perspective would be greatly appreciated. Would you like me to continue with part 4, the update portion? Update. Since my first post 6 months ago, a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone who offered support and guidance. Your words truly kept me strong during some very dark moments. Let me start with the legal side. Following the advice I consulted with my own attorney. He confirmed what I suspected. I had every legal right to my inheritance, and what my father attempted was, in fact, illegal. Together, we documented. Prepared to act if needed. Thankfully, we didn't have to go to court. With support from my grandmother, the other executor, and my dad's siblings, the matter was resolved privately. I received the full amount Grandpa intended for me. Due to his attempt to alter the will, my father was removed as an executor. It wasn't easy. There were weeks of tension, angry phone calls, awkward meetings, even legal threats from my parents. But in the end, the law was clear. Emotionally, though, the fallout was enormous. My parents doubled down. They accused me of greed and of manipulating Grandpa. They spread rumors among extended family, saying I had turned Grandma against them and coerced Grandpa before he died. Fortunately, most of the family saw through the lies. But one particularly awful moment happened about a month after. The will was finalized. My aunt hosted a family gathering. My parents showed up uninvited. My dad launched into a rant about how I'd robbed Amy and ruined the family legacy. My mom threw an old photo album at my feet and sobbed. It was humiliating. Several family members had to step in and ask them to leave. But through all this, my grandmother remained my strongest supporter. She shared stories of how proud Grandpa had been of me, how he kept a scrapbook of my awards, college letters, and even the play program from the show they were late to. It was heartbreaking and healing at the same time. She went further. Grandma organized a private family meeting, one without my parents, where she laid out the entire history of favoritism. She recounted events I'd forgotten, and some I never even knew. For the first time, I felt fully seen. The years of neglect weren't just in my head. Then something incredible happened. Amy found her voice. She came to me, one-on-one, and apologized. After long talks with Grandma and a lot of reflection, she admitted she had always known things were unfair, but was too afraid to speak up. We had an emotional conversation about our childhoods, how her favorite status came with its own pressures and left her unprepared for real life. It was the beginning of real healing between us. Since then, Amy and I have been rebuilding our sibling bond. We started meeting regularly, just the two of us, for coffee, walks, or to simply talk. One day, she surprised everyone. She announced she was going to use her inheritance to pay for college. She said watching me stand up for myself inspired her to finally take control of her life. She enrolled in a local community college, with plans to transfer to a 4-year university. Our parents were stunned. I think they realized, maybe for the first time, that their overprotectiveness had actually held her back. Their reaction was complicated. At first, they lashed out. They tried to guilt Amy into dropping out, claiming I had turned her against them. But that didn't work. So, they changed tactics. After several difficult conversations with Grandma, and witnessing Amy's progress, my mom started to soften. She even began therapy to examine her own behavior. She reached out to me, apologizing. She admitted to being unfair and asked for a chance to make things right. It's been a slow process, but she's trying. We've had a few honest, emotional lunches where we talked about the past and what a future relationship might look like. I'm cautiously optimistic, but also keeping clear boundaries. My dad, however, is another story. He still refuses to admit he did anything wrong. He believes Amy and I are being ungrateful and disrespectful. He won't even be in the same room as me. He's missed multiple family events and has threatened to sell the childhood home if we don't come to our senses. It's heartbreaking, but I've stopped trying to change him. Thankfully, Grandma has remained a rock for both Amy and me. She continues to share stories about Grandpa and reminds us how proud he was of our strength and independence. She's been an incredible mediator, patient, fair, and unwavering in her belief in justice. This journey has taught me so much about what family really means. Sometimes, the family you choose can be more supportive than the one you were born into. I've grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who supported me. I've also built a tight-knit circle of friends who've had my back throughout all of this. Setting boundaries and practicing self-care have become non-negotiable. I'm getting better at saying no to situations that harm my mental health, and I've finally stopped feeling guilty for putting myself first. For years, I was so busy trying to earn my parents' love that I ignored my own passions and needs. Now, I'm rediscovering who I am. To anyone going through something similar, here's what I want you to know. Do not let guilt keep you from claiming what is rightfully yours. Even if it causes conflict, even if people judge you, it is okay to protect yourself. You deserve fair treatment. If you're struggling, see a therapist. Surround yourself with people who lift you up. And don't hesitate to set boundaries, because your worth is not defined by how your family treats you. I want to thank each and every one of you again for your encouragement and thoughtful advice. You'll never know just how much it meant during one of the hardest chapters of my life. Though the road hasn't been easy, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Hope. I'm excited about what lies ahead. I've started to dream again. I've been exploring new interests, investing wisely, and even considering using part of my inheritance to start a business someday. One idea close to my heart is opening a community center that offers affordable mental health care and financial literacy programs, resources I wish I had growing up. But perhaps the most meaningful thing I've done with the money so far, paying for therapy, not just for me, but also offering to help cover it for Amy. Both of us are still healing. We're learning to navigate adult life without leaning on the warped dynamics that shaped our childhood. We're setting boundaries. We're learning how to protect our peace. And we're slowly letting go of the roles our parents forced us into. Amy and I have even created a new tradition, Siblings Day once a month. We do something just for us, hiking, a picnic, a movie. It's the most relaxed and connected we felt since we were little kids. Without the shadow of our parents' control, we're rebuilding a bond on our own terms. As for our parents, things remain complicated. My mother is trying. She continues to go to therapy and has made a few genuine efforts to mend the relationship. I can see she's beginning to understand how much damage her favoritism caused. We've had a few heartfelt conversations. There's still a long road ahead, but she's walking it, slowly. My father, on the other hand, remains distant and angry. He claims he did nothing illegal and insists Amy and I should be grateful. He avoids me at family events and still tries to guilt-trip Amy whenever he gets the chance. That part still hurts, but I've come to accept that I can't change him, only how I respond. Grandma has continued to be a guiding light. She tells us more stories about Grandpa's pride in us and reminds us constantly that we did the right thing. Her strength, fairness, and unwavering love have been a lifeline. This whole experience has changed me deeply. I've learned that standing up for yourself, even when it means standing alone, is worth it. I've discovered the true meaning of resilience, and I've realized that family isn't just about blood. It's about loyalty, honesty, and love. I've also uncovered a new passion, helping others who've been through the same. I'm currently looking into going back to school to study family therapy, specializing in adult children of emotionally immature or narcissistic parents. I have already begun volunteering at a local youth center, supporting teens from difficult home environments. Being able to offer them the guidance I once needed is incredibly fulfilling. I'm even considering starting a scholarship fund for kids in similar situations, using part of my inheritance to help others reclaim their futures. I've come a long way from being the forgotten son. Now, I know my worth. I value my peace, and I will never again let someone make me feel guilty for standing up for myself. This new chapter, however uncertain, excites me. I am no longer living for my parents' approval. I'm building the life I deserve, a life full of purpose, love, and self-respect. And someday, if I have a family of my own, I'll make sure that favoritism and emotional neglect end with me. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.